Beyond our galaxy. This final show is lovingly dedicated to my mother, Ione J. Wegener, 1919 to 2001. My mom discovered WKTV for me one day when I came home from college. She suggested after watching a show on WKTV that this is something that I would be interested in. So I went, got certified, and conquered. I have also gotten involved in GRTV, in which this show idea was created. I also have done shows for PMN in Kalamazoo, Michigan as well. So this final episode of Beyond Our Galaxy is dedicated to my mother. Hey gal, are you still here? Yeah, Nick, I'm still here. Can you believe it, gal? What should I believe in, Nick? Tell me. This is our final show of Beyond Our Galaxy. Has it been 10 years already, Nick? My, where does the time go? It goes by fast, gal, when you're having so much fun producing your own show. I suppose so, Nick. We astronomers tend to have too much fun looking at the stars. I suppose so, gal. Hey, do you think Mr. Spock will help us rescue old Ptolemy on this final episode, gal? I don't know, Nick. Guess we viewers are just gonna have to watch the whole show and see it at the end. I suppose so, gal. Hey, gal, what do you see through your telescope? I see a universe full of beautiful things just waiting to be discovered, Nick. Wow, gal, that sounds pretty cool. And the journey continues. Space. The definition of space is the vast three-dimensional regions or areas where it begins, where the Earth's atmosphere ends. In other words, space is as way, way, way out there above planet Earth. The exosphere is the last layer of the Earth's atmosphere before it arrives in space. Here is a picture diagram of the layers of the Earth's atmosphere and where they are located. The exosphere is where space begins, and we find all kinds of things in it. Things like satellites, the Hubble Space Telescope, and the International Space Station are located here in low Earth orbit. The Americans developed a test jet plane called the X-15. This jet was used between 1959 and 1968. There were 12 test pilots who flew this plane to see how man could adapt himself to space. This jet could fly at speeds of up to 4,520 miles per hour and fly about 50 miles above the Earth's atmosphere. One famous person was a test pilot for this jet as well. His name was Neil A. Armstrong. He forgot one thing. What did the producer forget? He forgot the space between the ears. True. Lots of space between the ears. There are literally billions of stars way out there in space, and there are billions of galaxies in space as well. Space is full of exciting things to see and study. Going beyond our galaxy, there are basically three types of galaxies. As seen here in this picture, we see three types of galaxies. These are 1. Spiral, 2. Elliptical, and 3. Irregular galaxies. Our own Milky Way galaxy is also known as the Local Group. It is called the Milky Way galaxy, as seen here in this picture. It has spiral arms and billions of stars in it as well. Our Milky Way galaxy spans some 100,000 light years across, as seen here in this picture. Here's another picture of our galaxy showing where we are located at. The Andromeda Galaxy, seen here in this picture, is the closest galaxy to our own. This galaxy, also known as M31, is located some 2.5 light years away and has about 1 billion stars in it. Believe it or not, someday both the Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxies are going to collide and form a new galaxy. Hey now, that's a scary thought, Mr. Producer. Why is that a scary thought? We won't be around when that happens. That's the whole thing. We won't be around so we see the fireworks. That's the whole problem. I like watching fireworks. You're a real firecracker, all right. I'm a firecracker when I fart. Here, listen to this. Please, Mr. Producer, rescue me. Looking out into space can be hours of fun. Whether you look through your telescope or a pair of binoculars, seeing the wonders of the universe is exciting. I remember my first telescope when I saw the planet Saturn through it for the first time. Then I was able to view the moon and other cool things through my telescope, and it was really fun. The Russians were first in launching Sputnik 1 into space in orbit around the Earth. Launched into space on October 4th, 1957, it weighed only 7¼ pounds and lasted several weeks in space. I was only a year old when this happened, and the Russians had launched Sputnik 2 and 3 into space as well. The Americans finally got into the race to space by launching the satellite called Explorer 1, seen here in this picture. Explorer 1 was launched into space on January 31st, 1958. There was 5 Explorers launched into space, while the Explorers 2 and 3 failed to launch properly into space. On April 12, 1961, the Russians did another first by sending cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin into space. I was only 5 years old, while cosmonaut Gagarin was 27 years old. Cosmonaut Gagarin stayed about 89 minutes in space before returning back to Earth. Cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman into space on June 16, 1963. This woman flew solo and was in space for 48 hours and 71 minutes. Now, I was 7 years old when this happened. She was 26 years old when she flew into space and is now, at this time of the show, 83 years old. It had appeared like the Russians were going to be first in a lot of things in space. The Russians appeared to make quite a few milestones in space. First human in space, first woman in space, first man to walk in space. The old saying was, whoever controlled the oceans controlled the world. Could easily be said of space as well. Whoever will control space would eventually control Earth also. No! You can't control Earth! And the journey continues! At first it had appeared that the Russians were going to dominate space. Americans were sort of worried about this until someone had finally challenged Americans to do something great. This challenge would definitely motivate the Americans to be first in doing something so great that the Russians would be left behind. The late President John F. Kennedy on May 25, 1961 made a challenge to America for our joint session of the U.S. Congress. Before the end of this decade, we will land a man on the moon and safely return them home also. Wow, Mr. President, that's a pretty tall order to fill. The Americans at last rallied behind President Kennedy by putting together 3 space projects. These three were Mercury, Gemini, Apollo. Project Mercury, 1958 to 1963. One-man mission into space. There were 7 American astronauts chosen to complete this project. Project Gemini, 1961 to 1968. The second human space project for Americans with a 2-man mission capsule. There were 10 missions with 8-man ones and 16 Americans on board these various missions. Project Apollo, 1961 to 1975. This was a 3-man mission with the goal of putting a man on the surface of the moon by the end of the 60s. 11-man missions and another 21 unmanned missions. Even though it appeared that the Americans were winning the race to the moon, 2 accidents happened that tragically stopped the race to the moon. These 3 brave American astronauts were to be Apollo 1, the first 3-man mission into space. White, Grissom, Chaffee. On January 27, 1967, fire struck inside this capsule on a test run, burning all 3 astronauts inside. The cry of "Fire in the cockpit" will never be forgotten. On April 13, 1970, Apollo 13, being some 200,000 miles away from the Earth, gave Houston control of this famous saying, "Houston, we have a problem." The lunar landing was aborted, but the astronauts returned home safely. On May 5, 1961, American astronaut Alan B. Shepard became the first American to fly into space. On February 20, 1962, American astronaut John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth. Flight duration, 4 hours and 55 minutes. On June 3, 1965, astronaut Edward White became the first American to walk in space. Duration of walk, 20 minutes, and a 23-foot cable was attached on the space capsule to help keep astronaut White from floating away. It would appear that the Americans were beginning to win the race to be the first to land man on the moon. It appeared that the Russians were quiet by the time the Apollo moon missions were taking place, or the Russians didn't have enough money to afford putting a man on the moon first. However, the Russians had quietly launched an unmanned spacecraft like this one seen here in this picture on June 13, 1969. Luna 1 was waiting 2 days before Apollo 11 arrived. Then finally on July 20, 1969, the late President Kennedy's challenge became reality when astronaut Neil A. Armstrong said these words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." On December 19, 1972, Apollo 17 splashed down into the Pacific Ocean at 2:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This would be the last splashdown into the ocean for any astronaut or spacecraft. And the journey continues. How I remember those days when in elementary and middle school, when the teachers would get out the TV set and let us watch all those rocket launches. Besides watching NASA's space rocket launches, I remember those awesome TV shows as well. Lost in Space, Star Trek, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. As a kid growing up watching the space race, it made me daydream about what it would be like to be an astronaut. I always wondered what it would be like to fly on different spaceships. So Billy, have you ever wondered what it would be like on a spaceship? Of course, I also wonder what it would be like being Mr. Spock with his pointed ears. I find that very fascinating, but my ears are uniquely mine. There was that cool spaceship called the Jupiter 2 on Lost in Space. It could fly at hyper speeds across the universe. Then came along the original starship called the Enterprise, and could fly in space at warp speed. Then there was the cool starship called Voyager 1, commanded by a woman captain. Indeed, at least on television, we Earthlings could travel beyond our galaxy at unheard speeds. Then there were the three beautiful spacewomen I love to watch every week as well. Judy Robinson, played by Marta Kristen, a Norwegian-American actress. She is now 75 years old at the time of this show we're making today. Colonel Wilma Deering, played by Erin Gray, American actress who played on Buck Rogers of the 25th Century. As a kid, it was easy to have a crush on this space actress. Stargate 1 actress Amanda Tapping played Samantha Carter, a British-Canadian actress. As of the making of this show, she is now 54 years old. Stargate 1 is a sci-fi show where explorers travel through Stargate in search of ancient cultures and new planets. Well, it's that time again to take a brief break from today's show. We're going to be looking at some awesome pictures taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. So, pour yourself a warm cup of coffee and sit right back down in the easy chair, relax, and enjoy. With the creation of the Hubble Space Telescope, humans have been able to look farther out into the universe more than ever before. The next adventure into space for the Americans began on April 24th, 1980. The first space shuttle launched was called Discovery. The space shuttle was a reusable spacecraft that would be launched into space and land on the Earth. These were the first two astronauts to fly the first space shuttle: Commander John W. Young, pilot Robert L. Crippen. The space shuttle was a reusable spaceship in that it was launched into space and landed on Earth. Here in this picture, the space shuttle is seen landing on the Earth. The space shuttle became the fourth human spaceflight done by the Americans. It was active from 1981 to 2001. There were 5 space shuttles built and 2 were destroyed in bizarre accidents while in flight. It had appeared while the space shuttle was winning the race into space and gaining approval by the American public, the Russians were quiet during these times. Here is a picture of the 5 space shuttles that were launched into space. The names of these shuttles were Enterprise, Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis, and Endeavour. The Hubble Space Telescope was launched into space on April 24th, 1990 on board the Atlantis Space Shuttle, seen here in this picture. 2 of the tragedies were this one being the Challenger. The Challenger exploded shortly after launch on January 28, 1986, killing all 7 astronauts on board as worldwide audience watched. Space Shuttle Columbia was destroyed flying over the state of Texas on February 1st, 2003. Being an astronaut has its risks and rewards as well. The final landing of the Space Shuttle was Atlantis at nighttime. The Atlantis touched down at 5:57 a.m. at Kennedy Space Center. On August 20th, 1977, the Americans launched another first into space. On board this Titan IIIe rocket was Voyager 2, an interplanetary space probe to explore the planet. 16 days later, its twin space probe Voyager 1 was launched into space to explore the planets as well. In August 2012, Voyager 1 left the solar system going beyond our galaxy and worlds unknown to us. In November 2018, Voyager 2 left our solar system going beyond our galaxy to explore worlds outside our galaxy unknown to us as well. Other notable achievements for the Americans was this Skylab. 3 different Skylab space stations orbited the Earth at different times. This project happened before the Space Shuttle from 1973 to 1979. The Americans landed the first robotic-wheeled space probe, Sojourner, landed on planet Mars on July 4th, 1997. Today, the 21st century, the exploration of space is an international effort by many different countries on Earth. The International Space Station is still operating above Earth and has been doing since July 4th, 1997. Well, that is all for today's show, but hey, Mr. Producer, did you forget something? What did I forget, Nick? What about rescuing old Ptolemy from the Borgs? Oh yeah, Nick, I almost forgot about him. Yeah, Mr. Producer, you're not going to leave us hanging, are you? Well, Nick and Gal, that would be up to Kirk and Janeway to rescue Ptolemy now. Well, where's Captain Kirk and Janeway then, Mr. Producer? Hey, Nick, I see Kirk and Janeway in my sights on their starship. A starship? What's that, Gal? Yes, Nick, come and see for yourself, Nick. Kirk, Janeway, please save me from the Borgs. Yeah, Gal, we're coming to rescue Ptolemy. Are you on board, Janeway? Yes, Captain Kirk, we're on board. Do you have a plan to rescue Ptolemy? Yes, Captain Janeway, we do have a plan. Mr. Spock is working on it. I find this conversation very fascinating. Please help me, Mr. Spock. We're going in to rescue Ptolemy, Captain Kirk. Hey, this is going to be an exciting rescue mission. Yes, this suspense is making me hold on to the side of my seat. Come on, Kirk and Janeway. The Borg wants to assimilate you too. Not on my watch, you will assimilate us, you ugly Borg. Kirk, the Borgs are trying to assimilate us. We're retreating. We've been attacked too, Janeway. We're out of here. Kirk, Mr. Spock, please save me. May you live long and prosper, Ptolemy. And the journey continues. Beyond our galaxy.